Hello everyone, how are you all? Thought I'd do another story time video for you all. More stories about Thomas himself, Thomas the Tank Engine. And there's two stories in this one. I'll read them to you if you like. Thomas used to grumble in the shed that night. I am tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world. The others didn't take much notice, but Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue. But one night Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. I've got some trucks to take home tomorrow, he told him. If you take them instead, I'll push coaches in the yard. Thank you, Edward, that will be nice, said Thomas. So they asked their drivers the next morning, and when they said yes, Thomas ran happily to find the trucks. Now, trucks are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't intend to do what they are doing. They don't listen to their engines, and when he stops, they bump into each other, screaming, "Oh, oh, 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 whatever is happening?" And I'm sorry to say that they play tricks on an engine who is not used to them. Edward knew all about trucks. He wanted to warn Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. The shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The guard blew his whistle. Peep, peep, answered Thomas and started off. But the trucks weren't ready. Oh, 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 they screamed as their couplings tightened. Wait, Thomas, wait. But Thomas wouldn't wait. Come on, he puffed, and the trucks grumbled slowly out of the siding onto the main line. Thomas was happy. Come along, he puffed. All right, don't fuss. Don't fuss, grumbled the trucks. They clattered through stations and rumbled over bridges. Thomas whistled peep, peep, and they rushed through the tunnel where Henry had been shut up. They came out to the top of the hill where Gordon had stuck. Steady now, steady, warned the driver as they shut off speed and began to put on the brakes. We're stopping, called Thomas. No, answered the trucks. They bumped into each other. Go on. And before his driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind him. Poor Thomas tried to stop them from making him go so fast. Stop pushing, he hissed, but the trucks wouldn't stop. Go on, they giggled in their silly way. Oh dear, trouble, isn't it? He was glad when they reached the bottom and they saw a front in place where to stop. Oh dear, what should I do? They rattled through the station, and luckily the line was clear and they swerved onto a good yards. Oh, groaned Thomas as his brakes held fast and he skidded through along the rails. I must stop. Phew! I stopped. When he opened his eyes, he saw it stop just in front of the buffers. There was the fat director. What are you doing here, Thomas? He asked sternly. I brought Edward's trucks, Thomas answered. Why did you come so fast? I didn't mean to. I was pushed, said Thomas. Have you pulled trucks before? No, I haven't. Well, you have a lot to learn about trucks, little Thomas. They are silly things and must be kept in their place. After pushing them around for a few weeks, you'll know almost as much as trucks about as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine. That was a good story. Next up is Thomas and the Breakdown Train. Every day the fat director came to the station to catch his train, and he always said hello to Thomas. There were lots of trucks in the yards, but different ones come in every day, and Thomas had to push and pull them into their right places. He worked hard and knew now that he wasn't as clever as he thought. Besides, the director had been kind to him and wanted him to learn all about trucks as to be a really useful engine. But on a siding by themselves, there were some trucks that Thomas was told he mustn't touch. It was a small coach, some flatbed trucks, and 2 cranes. That's the breakdown train, his driver said. When there's an accident, the workmen get on the coach and the engine takes them quickly to help the hurt people and to mend the lines. The cranes are useful for lifting heavy things like engines and coaches and trucks. Cranes are very clever for these things, aren't they? One day, Thomas was in the yard when he heard an engine whistling, "Help! Help!" and a good train was rushing through too fast. The engine was James. He was frightened. His brake blocks were on fire, and smoke and sparks steamed out on each side. "They're pushing me! They're pushing me!" he did. On, laughed the trucks, still whistling. "Oh, help!" Poor James disappeared. "I'd like to teach those trucks a lesson," said Thomas the Tank Engine. Soon the alarm came from the firebox and a man was running. "James is off the line! The breakdown train! Quickly!" he shouted. So Thomas was coupled on and the workmen jumped into their coach and they went off. Thomas worked his hardest. "Hurry, hurry, hurry," he puffed. But this time he wasn't trying to be like Gordon, he really meant it. "Bother those trucks and their tricks," he thought. "I hope poor James isn't hurt." They found James and the trucks at a bend on a line. The brake fan and the last few trucks were all on the rails, but the front ones weren't. James was in the field with a cow looking at him. His driver and fireman were feeling him and checking that he wasn't hurt. "Never mind, James," they said. "It wasn't your fault. I blame those wooden brake blocks. They were always no good at all." Thomas pushed the breakdown train alongside. Then he pulled the unhurt trucks out of the way. Oh dear, they groaned. Serves you right, puffed Thomas crossly. When the men put the other trucks on a line, he pulled them away too. He was hard at work, puffing backwards and forwards afternoon. This'll teach you a lesson, he said to the trucks, and they answered, yes it will. They left the trucks and mended the line, and the 2 cranes put James back on the rails. He tried to move, but he couldn't, so Thomas helped him back to the shed. The fat director was waiting anxiously for them. "Well, Thomas," he said kindly, "I've heard all about it, and I'm pleased with you. You're a really useful engine. James will have some proper brake blocks and a new coat of paint, and you shall have a branch line all to yourself." "Really, sir, a branch line? Thank you so much." This made Thomas very happy. Now here comes the happy bit. Now Thomas is as happy as can be. He has a branch line all to himself and puffs proudly backwards and forwards with 2 coaches all day. He is never lonely because there are always some engine to talk to at the junction. Edward and Henry often stop by and tell Thomas the news. Gordon is always in a hurry and does not stop, but he never forgets to say poop poop, and Thomas always whistles peep peep in return. That was fun, wasn't it? Glad I could entertain you fans. Goodbye.